Uh, I would be interested in whether you have seen any trends among these people about is there any change of the archetypes of man and a woman, both in a family and also in a workplace? I've done some research for a conference where I spoke about, let's say, the percentage of women leaders, mainly in management. So far, the higher, the lower the percentage of women in corporations. It starts, the higher position, the lower the percentage of women. It starts at MBA, where only 25% of women apply and go. London Business School has a Center for Women in Leadership, and they predict that in 10 years there will be invasion of women top managers to the boardrooms. And their origin will be mainly from Asia and from Central Eastern Europe. And why they think these women would come from these regions is because they have been quite a disadvantage by the regime, but also by the tradition and the chauvinism instilled. So now we see basically the first generation of females who feel that they have the room and they have the space, and also these social rules are changing even in the institutions that they could actually succeed. Do you see anything, let's say, which would either deny or confirm these trends?
In all honesty, at this point, I know that I have data, but in all honesty, that is not something that I've really looked at. And I'm really intrigued by what you just said and would like to learn more. If you have some studies on that, I'd really appreciate not only your passing along the links, but also that would make us look at something, because as you know, we poll worldwide. But it's just not something that I've...
Can I make one comment just on that topic? Our company, we employ about 150 people in different areas, and I found that I have a lot of my top managers over the last 19 years here have been women. And one of the things that I found, and it was also in our family, and maybe you've had the same experience, was women really had to carry the biggest burdens. They had to take care of a husband, at home, cooking his food, sexually, the kids, everything. And then they also had to work. I think it's because they have experience. And I found that and not to say men are better than women or any of that, but in my company, with our experiences, I found that these women that are coming from the families, these what I would call traditional Czech families, actually have been brought up with all of these things they've had to bear and burden. Forget about all the social and political, nightmares and all of that, and secret police after their families and all this. They are simply characters that now say, well, now we have an opportunity to do something a little bit for ourselves and to kind of spread our wings and not be put in the box we're in. And maybe that's one of the things, but I've certainly found that in our company that I have some really dynamic women working there, and I love that because they set a great example in our company. It's just
pretty much what had been kind of suggested as that finally they have a chance to leave the traditional, just staying at home and basically caring for everything which is not really appreciated because it's expected by the way.
But they were really doing a hell of a lot.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We do know that in the United States, the mommy track, as we call it, is redefined as choice to get out of the workplace, because you can't do it all. Yes, Jim.
Taking us back to business, and especially entrepreneurs and corporations, and taking into account this first global generation, how will you foresee, or how do you foresee that the workplace will change, the labor market will change? How will these people select their employers? Because to be part of a large corporations, you get something, but maybe you don't have that much freedom. How do you see the impact?
there's a number of developments here, none of which will surprise you. But, you know, first of all, work will be defined much more by contract, by project, by experience, than it will be defined as a job. The sense of permanence will no longer be there. In fact, it's already not there. Employers need to understand that more and more that young people see that their life is filled with options. Now, of course, we have this interruption right now. There's anxiety about the economy, but it's temporary, and it'll be back on track. Secondly, there is a myriad of work rules. Let me just tell this story. It's hopefully semi-humorous, but it also says an awful lot. My wife and I were out to dinner a couple of years ago, and we were at a restaurant with another couple, and we were talking about something that happened in the United States right at that moment. Maybe some of you may have heard of this. There were two beauty queens, young women, a Miss Nevada and a Miss New Jersey, both of whom had posed nude when they were younger, and their pictures showed up on YouTube. And one of them lost her crown, and the other was about to lose her crown, but Donald Trump stepped in, Miss New Jersey, and saved her crown. But the point is, you can go anywhere you want to. But as we were talking about this, the waitress came by, all of about 20 or so. And one of the things about First Globals is that they don't always mind their own business. And so she just started talking to us. And so we talked about new definitions of privacy, which do exist. Young people have a completely different sense of privacy than we do. And so I said...
that later. Come back. I don't want to interrupt you, sir, but will you come back to that?
I will.
That's important for us.
But this is going to answer, I think, for you. So I said to this young lady, what are your limits? She said, well, I will only take my top off, but only on Halloween. And just for friends. Thank God, there's standards. So I said, oh, all right, okay, I understand. So today I'm your friend. But tomorrow I'm not. And I decide I want to share your picture with everybody. Can you stop me? And she said, no. I said, all right, well then the day after tomorrow, I'm your prospective employer. And you come looking for a job. What am I supposed to do? She said, so many of us are doing this, you won't have anybody to hire. Does that answer the question? Yeah. I'm old.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm very old. I am. Yeah.
This is something you said earlier. When your kid comes home and he says that you don't know what I'm talking about. And as a father, you have this instinct to share your life experience and don't go off that, right? Now, how do you really figure out when he's right and you really don't know what is happening out there? And so I'm more in terms of our unlearning what we have learned and how do we adjust to this new world and relearn as opposed to trying to teach what we learned 20 or 30 years ago, which doesn't really apply today. So.
There's always been that tension. Not always, but there's been that tension for many, many decades. I have a further problem, which is I'm a baby boomer. And so we are defined by always seeing things through the lens of ourselves. So I have 3 sons who always say, why does everything, including my problems, always have to revolve around you and your problems? And so I've learned to back off with the personal stories as much as it pains me. I've been through it all.